Good morning, insiders. Welcome to another one of your Monday downloads. Today we're going to be talking about pricing. We're going to be talking about how to price your properties and drop the price on your short sale properties, and to do that without jeopardizing the short sale approval itself. One of the areas that I see most often that destroys a short sale transaction is the pricing of the property. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen agents price a property too low, and therefore find themselves with offers on a property that no one can perform on because it's below what market value is. And the way they get to that price is 95% of the reason that it fails. And that's what we're going to talk about today. There truly is a difference between a traditional listing and a short sale listing in many ways, but specifically around how you price it and how you drop the price. In some respects, it's easier than a traditional sale because every time you drop the price on a traditional sale, you have to convince your seller that the value is not what it is listed at currently and that you need to drop the price to get it sold. And that's literally money coming out of the seller's pocket. So that's a difficult conversation at times because they are losing money every time you drop the price. So in that respect, it's an easier situation as far as convincing the parties, convincing the seller to drop the price, because in a short sale, the seller's not going to get any money anyway. It's primarily having to do with the bank, and so by positioning them correctly, that part of it should be much easier. But let's talk about the pricing and give you just some concept. Think of it in terms of pleading your pleading your case in court. The BPO, or the BPO factor part that we talked about last week, would be your court presentation. Your listing, from the point that you get it on the market through getting an offer, that whole process is part of your supporting evidence. You have to have supporting evidence to plead your case in court, and that's what the listing is. Think of it as your supporting evidence. So if you don't do it correctly and you don't have a strong case that you've built or evidence that you've built for your case, then the likelihood of you getting an approval on your short sale goes down. So it's that important. The BPO and the Excite price, or the pricing, we call it the Excite price system, those are the two most important things that you can understand in your short sale business to be successful. So let's talk about comps. Be very careful what comps you use. Depending on your market and how saturated it is with short sales or REOs, in some markets, you can't even use short sale listings or REO listings as comparable properties when it comes to pricing the subject property or an appraiser evaluating the value of the property. So be very careful. As a rule of thumb, if you have under 25% of the listed, the active and sold properties are short sales, then you can't use those as comparables. You have to use non-short sale, non-REO properties as your comps. And it doesn't make a lot of sense because your subject property is a short sale. You think, well, of course I'm going to use short sales as my comps because they're the most accurate comps, but banks often won't let you do that. Now, many markets, this is obviously not going to apply to our agents in areas like Nevada and Arizona and California, places that if 60% or more of the market is short sale and REO driven, then obviously you're not going to have any issue with that. The other nice thing is that a lot of your inventory has not been released out in those areas, and so you can price it really competitively based on what the market is showing and get offers pretty quickly. So in that market, this is not necessarily a problem. So for other markets that don't have really strong short sale listings and sold properties, in those markets, you're going to have to use what Jessica calls her breadcrumb technique, and this is an important piece in building your case. If in your market, let's say you can't use the short sales as comps, or you're right on the border there, you just don't have a very large short sale market, what you need to do is you need to start where you have really solid comparable properties that are not short sale and not REO. Now, you may know as a real estate professional, you may look at the market and say, this house is not going to sell for $150,000. Guaranteed. I know that it's not. Based on my market and based on what houses are selling for, plus the fact that it's a short sale, it's not going to sell there. The problem is that you don't have enough comps to list it at where you think it's going to sell, which might be $130,000. So you start at that $150,000. And the reason you do that is because you know that that if an appraiser and a BPO agent came out, if you got an offer at 150, if one of those parties came out to value the house, there would be no question in their mind that it's at least worth 150. So you're confident that that BPO is going to come in correctly. Now here's where the breadcrumb technique comes in. You're going to start dropping that price 5 to 10% every 2 to 3 weeks, and you have to be strategic, and you have to have kind of a gut feeling about this. And I know I'm going through this fast. This is an hour plus teaching that Jessica does that I'm consolidating into about 10 minutes. But you'll get the gist of it here. And if you want more information, you can contact us. You can get our training course and actually dive into it and get all of the real core information and a lot of your questions answered. Okay, so you're dropping it. You have 0 showings at 150,000. Nobody's even looking at it. You leave it there for a few weeks. You drop it to 145, and I know that's not 5 or 10%, but I'm just giving you some examples. So you drop it to 145, still no showings. You drop it to 140, still no showings. You drop it to 135. Finally, you've got some showings. No offers, but you've got showings. And each of these increments, you're leaving it there for that 2 to 3 weeks before you drop it the next amount. Now, you're getting a lot of showings. You're getting a lot of feedback. You're just not getting any offers. At this point, you may not want to drop it a full 10%. You may not even want to drop it a 5%. You might want to just kind of tweak it down a little bit to the next price bracket or something like that. Just something to push some people over the edge. So you drop it to 130, let's say. At that point, you get an offer. What you've done is you've built your case as to what the property is not worth. I hope that I'm going to repeat that for you. You're building your case to what the property is not worth, because you're trying to prove to the bank what it is worth through their BPO agent, and by proving what it's not worth, then in essence we're able to build our case around what it is worth. Now, granted, those BPO agents and appraisers have to have comparables that can support that value, but what it might do is it might cause them to be able to make some exceptions to either go to a farther radius because they don't have any true comps, or be able to utilize the short sales and REOs if you're right on the border there and say, based on this information, we needed to use the short sales to be comparables because of this, that, and the other thing. So the point is you're helping build the case for the BPO agent and for the bank so that they can see why you got an offer at 130 and why you dropped it to 130. If you started at 130, you're going to have a really tough time convincing that BPO agent, again, unless you have some really strong comps. If you started at that 130, they're going to be like, you know what, really the comps are at about 145. I think it's worth 140, 145. And all of a sudden now you've got a BPO up here and an offer down here, and trying to reconcile those two is going to be very challenging. It's going to take a lot more negotiation time, cuts in commissions, and probably is not going to happen at all. So again, those are numbers that I'm just throwing out. I mean, 145 to 130 is not a massive difference, but I'm just saying when your BPO is higher than your offer, it does become more challenging to get the short sale closed. And your pricing strategy from the point that you list it all the way to the point you get an offer is critical to your ability to be successful and actually get an approval from the bank. And it doesn't matter who you have negotiating it, whether it's you or a third party, an attorney, whoever it might be. If your BPO is off, nobody's going to be able to get that thing through. So that's what I have to say to you about that. In regard to that, if you have questions, please let me know. Go back and re-reference your material, and I'll just repeat, for those of you who really want to learn the ins and outs of the short sale process from a real estate agent's perspective, not necessarily all of the calling the bank and talking to the negotiator and all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of a whole different world. What I'm talking about is, as a real estate professional, what do you do different when it comes to meeting with your sellers and doing BPOs, meeting with BPO agents, pricing your properties, advising your sellers, all that kind of information. Go over to our Alliance Short Sales webpage. It's Alliance Short Sales with an S on the end.com, and check out our training course. We have a 6-month money-back guarantee. It's not for everybody, but if you're serious about short sales and carving out that niche as a real estate agent, it's going to benefit you greatly. So that's all I have this week. Tune in again next week and I'll have something else to go over. Make sure you're pricing your properties correctly. How you price your property is going to directly affect the value the BPO agent comes up with and will directly affect the success of your short sale. All right, good luck. We'll talk to you later, and have a great week.